Or we like to remember, as Americans, Andrew Jackson's great victory at New Orleans, and, which is usually attributed to the Tennessee Riflemen. Now, all of these images suggest that the war was a defense of the United States against British invasion, which of course it did become at the end of the war. What Americans forget is that the war began because the United States declared it and proceeded to invade Canada. And most of the war is spent invading Canada and losing. So that's why we want to forget about it. But Canadians want to remind us of this. Canadians are remarkably nice people, very polite, until the War of 1812 comes up. And there's just one thing they want from you, to concede that you lost. They love the War of 1812 story because they are, in terms of population and power, a smaller country. And they live right next door to a superpower, which we think must be easy because we're Americans and everybody must love us. But living next door to a superpower is not an easy thing, even when the Americans are the superpower. So the Canadians, they have to be our friends now, and they do a very good job of being our friends. But they like to remember the time when they weren't our friends and they beat us. Because it's a David versus Goliath story, as they tell it. And they have their own patriotic icons, particularly Isaac Brock, who died in battle, defeating an American.
Bigger government, higher taxes, a health system. And I wonder whether you want to comment on that, whether indeed there's a case to be made that it represents really two different polarities of the American psyche.
Right. Well, I think that's a good point. You certainly can make that case. I think this is what historians always do. They say, well, yes, but it's more complicated, right? And how it gets more complicated is that you've got these late loyalists that come in, and they're kind of apolitical, so they basically just want to be left alone. And that's why Canada is appealing to them. But after the War of 1812, the War of 1812 turns out to be the greatest vehicle for creating new loyalists. Because American forces get over there, and these are raw recruits. They are sent into combat without training, virtually without training. There's no boot camp for these people. The United States government is so short-handed for soldiers that as soon as they put a uniform on you, they send you to the front. And they send you off into the Canadian woods, and where you hear Indians screaming, because the Indians practice a psychological warfare that is very effective.